So, in this video, I'll be talking about some of my favorite scenes from books, 5 of them. So when I talk about a scene, I just mean like a specific, series of pages where, where everything's happening in the same area. You know what a scene is. I mean, come on. Okay, so just be aware that this will contain spoilers for Dance with Dragons, Way of Kings, The Heroes, First Law, and Shattered Sea. So if you want to read any of those, do not listen to this video unless you don't mind spoilers. Okay, so the first of my favourite scenes is the Ed Fetch Me a Block scene from Dance with Dragons. This scene is just really good. You've been building Janos Slynt. You've probably seen the show. You know he's a bit of a dick. And we've probably seen this scene in the show, and it's good in the show, but it's even better in the book. Whereas like, this guy's an asshole. You know he's an asshole, but you don't really quite know what's going on because of the way the perspective is done. You don't see inside. You don't really see what's going to happen. And then, this guy's just being a dick, and you're like, oh, what's John going to do? He's like, because you still think of him as he's not like the Lord Commander. Well, he is the Lord Commander, but you don't really think of him as that yet. So this guy's talking shit, what are we going to do? This is interesting. And then he's just like, fetch me a block, I'm going to cut his head off. And you're like, what? And then he just does it, and you're like, okay, well. And it's just, it's both satisfying, because, the dude you don't like is just getting yeeted, and that's fun. But also, it's so well written. And it's you don't quite know what's going to happen, and even towards the end you're like, surely this is not going to happen, and then he just does it, and you're like, okay. So that's one of my favorite scenes. I really like that, and honestly, everything written by George is fantastic. But yeah, that's one of my favorites from him. And then the next scene is the scene in Way of Kings, where so what's happened is that, and I don't remember this 100% just because it's been a while since I read this book, but I did have a lot of fun with the scene. So it's a scene where Dalinar has promised Kaladin that he'll save him from Sadeas. He'll buy him off him and it'll be all good. And Kaladin, because he hates Light Eyes, storming Light Eyes, he hates Light Eyes tons. So he's like, he doesn't believe him, right? And then so Dalinar is like, yo, Sadeas, I'll buy these slaves off you. And Sadeas is like, well, no, I'm a dick because I'm Sadeas. I mean, that's just the way he be. And then Kaladin's just thinking to himself, like, yeah, of course, I knew it wasn't going to work. I never trusted these storming Light Eyes. And you're like, oh, shit, I thought Dalinar was, like, a good guy. What's going to happen now, because you think there's no way to win because you're two characters that you like, Kaladin and Dalinar. They're like, it seems that it's not going to work out between them because, Dalinar can't free him. And Kaladin's like, oh, God, I don't trust me. You're like, and as a reader, you're like, oh, no, what's happening? This feels bad. And then Dalinar just draws a Shardblade. And you're like, oh, shit, are we just going to have, like, a massive battle here? Like, technically a friendly fire battle. You're like, oh, this is going to be whack. And then Dalinar just yeets him with Shardblade. He's like, yo, you can have this. Just give me these guys. And then even, like, Sadeas is like, what the fuck? Because he's a massive dick. He can't understand that people are actually nice sometimes. But, like, to be honest, like, even as a reader, you're like, what? I did not expect this. And it's just a real satisfying, cathartic scene, because Kaladin's like, Light Eyes? Actually nice people? What? And it's just a really, really, really cool scene. I just loved listening to it. I love these beats, you don't quite know what's happening. Then he draws the Shardblade and you're thinking it's going to go one way, and then B. Sando's like, nah, it's going this way. But it makes sense that it goes that way. It's just, it's well done. The next scene, this is sort of technically maybe multiple scenes. It's hard to, I'll call it one scene. It's the scene from The Heroes, where, so basically what happens is there's a battle. And the perspective, every time somebody dies, and because it's Joe Abercrombie, everybody is dying. No one's having a good time. And every time so you have your point of view character, and every time they die, it switches to the person who killed them. And it's just masterful, because you basically just bounce around the battle. Like one guy's charging up a hill, he gets shot by an arrow, you go to the bowman, and then he gets like cut down, and then you go to the dude to cut him down, he gets killed, and it's just this, and like it takes you around this battle in a way, because normally if you have main characters in a battle, they're not going to die because they're your main characters, and they're also your perspective characters. How else would you see what's going on in the battle if your characters die? But Joe Abercrombie's like, no, that's the whole point. They're all going to die, and you're going to love it, and it's so well done, and it's so brutal, and that man is just a master. That dude is a genius. So yeah, I really, really like that scene. Then next up we have another Joe Abercrombie scene, because I'm a bit of a fanboy, and that's Logan versus Fenris in the Circle, where they're just like, it's just an awesome battle scene. I don't even actually remember it too well. I just sort of remember my emotions because I'm a massive Logan fanboy, and it's just an awesome fight scene, and you're just like, and it just keeps getting better, and it sort of does, that Rocky thing where your main character's like, oh no, I'm getting beaten up, but I'm gonna, come back more powerful and stronger, which makes it sound kind of bad. I'm not really selling it, but it's fantastic. So yeah, that is a really, really cool scene. It's fantastically described action, and like you get some of the emotions of the fight as well. It's just really cool. So yep, there's that, and then the last one is the scene from one of the final scenes from Half a War, where they win the battle. So basically, what's happened is it's like, you know, a super it's like medieval post-apocalyptic, as in like it's been like, you know, thousands of years since the apocalypse or whatever. Now they're just medieval societies. But these guys, they managed to go find a bunch of guns, and as you can imagine, guns in a medieval context are a bit OP. So they just have this battle, and then they just the other guys are like running in with their swords. They, you know, the dudes with the guns are massively outnumbered, and then they just yeet out their guns and just shoot them all. And you're like, what? And I don't know. It's also just a cool concept I thought about a lot, where it's just like, you know, what would happen if we had modern technology and ancient wars and stuff, right? And then Joe Abercrombie's like, yeah, well, what would happen is everyone would get shot, which is true. I mean, you can't argue with him, and it's just really good because it's also good because it's been built up to, you know, like these guys have gone looking for the guns, and you've been slowly introduced to the fact that it's like, you know, post-apocalyptic. We're not just like, oh, there's the Golden Gate Bridge. I wonder if this is post-apocalyptic. It's like it's sort of built up to it, and you sort of you kind of get it a bit, and you're like, oh yeah, but I doubt, how can this really be relevant? I mean, cool, it's, you know. Because there's a lot of books, I think, which are vaguely hint at that, where it's like, oh yeah, this is Earth a few thousand years in the future, and you're like, yeah, cool, but it doesn't actually mean anything. And Joe Abercrombie's like, yeah, it means I have guns and I'll shoot all their enemies, and it's cool. And you're like, okay, Joe, all right, you know, if that's, you know, that's the way you're gonna go. That's the way you're gonna go. So that's a really cool scene. So yeah, there's 5 of my favorite scenes. Maybe I'll do another one of these videos when I remember some more. But yeah, there's 5 of my faves. Have a good one.